All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to wrap up the day. Uh, Fairly uneventful day today, but I think one of the big takeaways is, and that's why I just posted that image of that prep in our thread there. Let's just share a screen here and pull it up here as well. Having this type of read on what's not happening, a lack of clarity, a market that has conflicting pieces of narrative information to it, told us that there was some bullishness from here, some bearishness from this whole wide zone here. And what do we get? A market that flirts early on with kind of working through some of that. We had a hypo. We had a hypo 2. If we could hold above that weekly prior value high, we could go with that. I kind of alluded to we would need to see order flow look good. We'd need to see that intraday imbalance holding, and we could kind of cautiously, was the word I used, go with that. That didn't happen. We had the shift. We had the sellers take over. And that puts us into that dissonant zone where, we thought about taking a couple scalps. There was really nothing excellent to be done there for my prep and my hypos. We talked several times throughout the day, whether it was short early, whether it was long, like some guys asked about in the Q&A, from G, H, even J period, once the failure to break down this area and put us in hypo 1 territory came to be. I would say if, like I said, a trader of mine who took that trade, no problem with that trade. If it was something that your prep, your ranking distilling had led you to want to trade that day and to look to trade, then there you go. The setup was there. But the big takeaway from today, we don't have a lot of trade executions to go through. I'm going to go through every decision that I made with you there. I do feel like I could have done a little better, especially, in one section or whatnot, but we're going to talk about that. The main thing here is that we had a day with all this crap, a lack of really nice clarity with narrative, and the market at least spent 90% of the day in a dissonant area. It kept us out of trouble, right? It kept us out of trouble. We didn't lose any money today. We didn't make any money. We didn't lose any money. Pretty much a scratch day. And kind of like someone had said in the thread, like, hey, like I could have taken a handful of crappy trades here at this point. So, we appreciate you showing the patience and the situational awareness and all those kind of things. So I just think that is just such a huge takeaway. It's not going to be the sexiest day that we have. But real trading oftentimes is not sexy, right? I think a lot of people get into trading for all the pretty colors and the carrot dangling on the end of that stick. Well, if you want that carrot, you're going to have to be able to sit on your hands some days where for your trading, for your niche, for your methodology, whether that's NADRO, whether that's NADRO and something else, whether it's completely non-NADRO, you're going to have contextual awareness as to where you have good opportunities and where you don't. And there doesn't have to be a bunch of activity that you go to say, well, for example, I could have scalped several times today. You don't have to go to those things. It's okay to sit back and understand you're in a position where there's not great opportunity, and to do less, not more, not try harder, not try to force even subconsciously that there's a narrative that you like and you just want to participate in that one and you're going to ignore all the problems. Very important points. So we'll do something of a traditional, review today. We can write that up. So to talk just a touch or to allude to our psychology, as we refer to our mental frameworks that we operate from in trading, one of the most important things that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to go from what an amateur defines as like a winning or losing day to what a person with superior mental frameworks that they're operating from defines as a good or bad day, as winning, as success, as failing, as bad. You need to redefine what those things are, right? And students of mine know this. And so one of the things that we focus on each day, I didn't get much of a chance to do this today because I wasn't really managing winning trades today, right? But my process goal today was to go to a more simplified trade management approach, to stop kind of scaling out some here and there and here and there and here and there, and just kind of like really freewheeling that and really allowing just 100% discretion on that. I've decided that I want to get a little bit move back towards where I teach you guys to be more process driven in my scale outs, right? And to just be a little bit more methodical about that. And that's just a move I want to make. Will I move that needle from discretionary here to this process driven level here and just keep it there forever? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. It's something that I see as an area for an incremental improvement in my training, and I want to do it. Okay. So, I would start out with something like, process goal. And I could keep on and on and on about it, but I have my prep work, so I know what the goal was, but you just want to reference it in the review. So whenever you're going back through, maybe at the end of the month sometime, and you're going through different review work that you have, you can quickly identify, okay, the process goal was this. How did you do, right? Which is the point of this, more so than redefining that goal and talking at length about it. Let's talk about how we did. Okay. The goal today was to manage winning trades in a more systematic, less discretionary manner than I have been lately. There wasn't much winning trades to manage today. Maybe, how about weren't, huh? There weren't many, whatever. We're not going to fixate on English here. Winning trades to manage today. However, on the winner I did catch, despite the scale outs being appropriately quick, right? Taking those profits early because of the compromised position I was in. I did scale out a second third as planned. I even had preemptive scale outs or aggressive scale outs on the prior position prior to a scratch before that. So overall, a success with the process goal today. So I won the day, but much more work to be done on this to implement the change. I just simply didn't get the reps in and didn't get to fully flex this trade management muscle today. So looking forward to doing that. Going into tomorrow, right? That's one thing you want to kind of, get to maybe towards the end of a review, our review is not going to be too complicated here. Because we didn't have a full crazy session with a bunch of trades and a bunch of things I was screwing up that I need to implement and realize from my review, then I need to just make the priority for fixing tomorrow. We're not going to have that from today's review, right? Today was just super straightforward and simple. So let's take a look at decisions that I did make, right? Trades that I took, and the decisions that go along with them. We've already kind of been through the context. We could also jot down as a part of the review hypos. It's always a good thing to do, right? Is to have that narrative read review. It's one thing to do your narrative read in the morning and do your best job, and then kind of focus on the trading and maybe even forget about the narrative read for those of you who are most amateur at this. And then for maybe some experienced people, they focus on the narrative work, then they focus on trying to trade it, and then they do their review and they focus on all the decisions they made, all the trades that they took. And they forget to go back and assess how good was the narrative read. We need a feedback loop and a review process for the narrative reading, just like anything else. Get a little bit of that with the benefit of hindsight at the end of the day. It can help you see some things that maybe you didn't see first. I'm not saying that you should be hindsight driven in terms of saying, oh, the market went up. I should have seen that it was going up. Look, this one time frame says it should be going up. That's different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I was bullish, but we broke down and sold off really hard. I remember I knew that this and this were bearish, and I chose to ignore those factors. Was there something I missed about those? Was some of the bearish factors higher strength of narrative than some of the bullish factors? Did I miss a fresh condition shift, key recent rejection, even just basic continuation directional bias that I'd missed on a time frame, which is easy to miss at times? Did I take current market condition on the monthly too literally during an imbalance and didn't realize we were well beyond the 2, and so I should have been looking on that time for more of a temporary reversion to the mean rather than just continued trend, which would require tremendous amounts of energy at those prices. So things like that. Always check your narrative read. Ours was superb today. We knew it was messy. We knew it was problematic, but we knew that this was resistance and bearishness. We knew that there was some bullishness from here. We had hypos to deal with, essentially a continuation if we got it there, right? That was hypo 2. Hypo 1 was this, which we attempted to trade. And hypo 3 was, forgive me if the level's wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's this. Okay. Those were the hypos today. We didn't get caught up in anything else. We gave a compromise shot, which we're going to talk about, at hypo 1. This never showed up. This fell apart early. And we were nice and waited for a decent attempt to get on board with our main scenario for the day. So I'm very happy with that. Nailing this, like, for example, if I posted this on Twitter, right? If I went and posted this DMI, people would say, holy crap, right? That's great. Maybe short from here, maybe long from here. And I have students who took both of those trades. As I've said all day long, some people really were focused on that short. Some people were really focused on getting that long once we failed there to stay lower. And both those were fine trades. So I'm sure some of you, hopefully many of you, made more units of risk than I did today, right? I was essentially a scratch day. So let's get to those decisions. It is good a lot of times for your review purpose to list or make sure that, you know, within Notion or something, you're very closely connected, right? You could put like a link to your prep, right? For your hypo section there, something to make sure that it's very easily accessible. The easier you can make it to look back on your body of work through your reviews connected with the preps for that session, all that kind of stuff, it's going to shorten your learning curve. The more that you can connect with that work as you're doing longer term reviews and going back through things, trying to get better, looking at your body of work, the quicker you're going to get better. Tempted to short a compromised hypo 1 scenario midday. I think I took 3 full entries, right? 1 scratch, re-enter, scale scratch, re-enter, scale stop. I believe that the P&L went something like this: minus 0.7 R, followed by a total scratch, followed by plus essentially 0.7, let's call it 0.65 R. I think I'm down less than 1 tick for the session. Yeah. Okay, to the decisions themselves, let's kind of let's zoom in, let's hone in on this. It's hard to kind of see, but I want you guys to see. So right here where this bar is colored red, not because it was colored red, I promise. That was the initial short. So let's, and then we know that I came out of it right here, okay? So let's hide the executions just to kind of make it clean to see what was going on. So I was looking at this imbalance pullback. I understood, first of all, narrative, right? Let's kind of NADRO this thing. Narrative, one of my main hypo for the session was breakout pullback below this level. Now, however, we trade areas, not lines. So there's times where I understand that the market, based on our intraday framework, is going to pull further back to an area. And at times it's my job to assess whether it makes sense to go for that trade anyways, even though it's not technically below the level, right? And so I knew that I had a narrative that I did want to trade. I knew that the acceptance picture was not perfectly kosher, right? We kind of went through this before, right? Just not quite enough of this rotation or this rotation below the level. So it was compromised there. So narrative, we give a nice check. Acceptance, we would say that it's compromised. DVA was perfect. Okay. Rhythm was perfect. It's a nice counter rotation based on the size rhythm we were seeing. And order flow was pretty darn perfect. We had gotten below delta neutral, which is something I had alluded to prior to, ending our morning stream. And on this pullback, this is tremendously weak, right? As I'm taking that trade. Let's make sure I can line up exactly where that was. Yep. Very weak selling below delta neutral. We get a check for order flow. So I know acceptance is a big one, guys. Trust me. I know you don't have a good narrative to take if you don't have the acceptance picture. I gave myself a pass on it. I kind of essentially was, let's say, early to the trade, just kind of going with a lot of the shorter term conditions, the breakdown, the order flow, everything else was just perfect. So be very, very careful as I'm giving you guys lessons here around trading NADRO. You don't want to, it is extremely rare that I compromise acceptance picture. You don't want to find, if you find yourself frequently saying, well, I'm going to take this trade anyway, we don't have the acceptance picture yet, you are not going to do well trading NADRO. Okay. So this is extremely rare that I make this compromise. I don't really have a problem with it. I felt like this was just a nice moving market at this point in time, and it was pretty clear what it was trying to do. We had a very nice read on this market. The scratch, I don't mind. Let's erase these drawings again so we can see clearly. Let me see, make sure it's on the right bar that I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, overall, I traded scared during this sequence. Now, some of my trading scared was warranted because I should be scared because I didn't have the acceptance picture in my favor. Okay. So you're going to see these scared type decisions, and we could use a different word than scared, right? I wasn't literally scared. I was conservative. I was cautious. I was not hanging around to ask questions as to, hey, why are we all, like something's going really wrong here. I was out quickly because I knew that it's not cool to trade with acceptance compromised, right? So that is the rationale you're going to see behind some of this aggressive risk reduction across the board, whether profitably or unprofitably. So the scratch, I felt like the market had a decent probability of running those highs, at least wicking it. And so I wanted to stand aside and look for reentry. And that's what I did. And as you see, I'm right back in by the time this bar that I got out on drops right back down. And so I bang in there as that's dropping. We get this little shift in order flow. That's great. Conservative, here we are again, conservative scale outs, okay? So I'm scaling out into this low, which is into the composite value area low, which is the acceptance below that I don't have yet, right? And then is where my least favorite decision of the day comes. We start to trade higher, and I see that the delta is turning decently. And I think I read too much into that. I think I saw a little more strength from those buyers than was actually there. And I banged out of it just as it bounced. I kind of wanted it to be more perfect in the sense of, we see all these lows where I'd entered. I kind of demanded that market, if this is think of it like a CVA, right? I kind of demanded that I get something of a little breakout pullback at least. I didn't want to see it pop back into this range and then again potentially threaten the stop run that I was concerned about above that high. Was that warranted to worry about the stop run there again? Probably not. It's not that bad of a high. Was it warranted based on the CVA holding, right? Maybe kind of, right? It's a tough read here. I put myself in this position. I put myself in a compromised position with the entry. And so I'm dealing with the consequences of not having confidence in the trade that I'm in. You guys will experience the same thing. I'm sure you have, most of you on this call. If you put yourself in a position where something's not right, now you're second guessing everything way more than we already second guess everything, even when things are right. Okay. It's tough to hang in and do. So I don't like the scratch out there, especially because I've already scaled out. That to me is the tiebreaker, like a gnat. That to me is the tiebreaker in which I say that I don't like the scale out decision, because the scratch decision, because I already scaled. I already got that first tier of risk reduced conservatively into this area that's dissonant with technically the acceptance picture, right? And so that's a point where I can really start to like give the trade a little more room and make the market perhaps come and stop me out. The imbalance, to fail at that point or wherever we have that, kind of around that 0.5 area, maybe even a little lower. So I would have liked to have seen myself hold on to that one right there. Not just because it drops like a rock from there, based on the hard right edge, based on the decisions, the market generated information that I made those decisions based on. Which brings us to the third and final, or the second reentry. The third is round trip of the session, which is a momentum-based reentry, because now I've messed up what was a decent trade location for the first two entries, right? In terms of in rhythm, in terms of DVA, it's a perfect place to be short. Overzealous on the exit. Now I put myself in an additionally compromised position. I don't mind it. The sellers really were hitting this hard. The speed of the tape picked up. I'm a big boy. I know how to handle myself with some advanced momentum-based entries. Remember the clean price action, the speed of the tape, right? So I did so. Would have had a very tight stop. I can't tell you, I didn't have a hard stop in, but I can't tell you exactly where the stop was, but I can assure you it was probably somewhere right around here, maybe a couple ticks back above the CVA level at 8.25. Okay. So very small risk there. I didn't get it sized big enough. It all happened kind of quickly. And so I didn't take enough risk on that entry. Number one, it had kind of messed up a bit on the prior scratch. And so I wasn't fully prepared for the momentum entry. And so I didn't quite get sized. I probably could have traded twice as big as I traded on that. Scaled out a first tier super conservatively where the momentum kind of dries up. You see, we actually pushed down to this low, we pushed a touch further, and then we actually retraced quite a bit, right? So I actually came out at a swing low that you can't even hardly see on this chart. So that was a nice, very, very, very conservative exit. And then this was a beautiful second tier, of the three components for my process that I'm managing successful trades today. That was a tier. Now we've got a nice rhythm rotation. It's into the -2. It's a perfect place to come out. And, that was low of day, right? So beautiful, beautiful exit there. And then, like I said, I left the trade on. I left a hard stop up here. Now, the stop, you may, someone smart in the group will say, hey, Merritt, you stopped out higher than where you told us your stop was. Are you lying to us? What are you doing? No. Sometimes when I take a compromised entry, in this case, I'm compromised in more than one way. I'm pretty tight, let's say on a momentum-based stop, right? It's going to be really tight right in there. And then once I get scaled a decent component of or a portion of the trade, that's the very rare time I will actually move a stop further away than it initially was. And that's what I did here. I put it somewhere where I'd be happy to stop out if we came back. If I kept this stop here below developing value low, below the CVA level, anything like that, and got wicked out of that trade and it really worked, I'm not going to be happy with that, right? I'm going to get poor marks on that during my review. So I moved the trade a little higher and I wasn't taking any excessive risk or anything like that. Again, I was small in the trade to begin with, smaller than I should have been. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sure some of you are able to get on some of these long opportunities. And obviously, you know, once it reaches the next area of resistance, this is that weekly prior value level. It was confluent with delta neutral again. It was the upper edge to the tick, you know, there for a while of developing value. Hopefully you took some great profits there if you took that trade, but that's not really a part of my review. So that's really it, you know. We could jot some things down. It's always important that you do that. I'm kind of narrating it here. Okay, I won't reread that. I'm sure you guys are reading along as I type that out there. But you know that we didn't really leave any stone unturned in terms of decision making. It was a tough sequence. If I wouldn't have taken the tough sequence trade, we probably wouldn't have had a regular hypo based trade today. There was a few opportunities with scalps today that I didn't take. You know, day one of the intensive and whatnot. I just wanted to keep things a little more straightforward. I'll add a kind of a secondary process goal. It's usually a best practice to have one singular process goal that you're focused on. But I'm going to give myself another, let's call it secondary goal. I see too many people too often have a list of 5 or 6 things that they're going to do better tomorrow, half of which aren't even within their control, which is a different topic entirely. But you can't give your best and to fix 5 things at the same time. You just can't do it as a human. Okay. So it's really important that you focus on one singular thing that you're going to crush tomorrow. It's really important. I'm going to have a little secondary thing that it's almost just like I'm mentioning it to you guys rather than my process goal is still going to be the trade management. Secondary goal. Give myself a little more freedom to take some of those high quality scalps when they're just right in front of us. So we'll add that to what we're looking at for tomorrow. But that's really it. We had a nice process goal today. We gave it a good attempt. We didn't make any mistakes with that. We just didn't have a really good opportunity to let normal trades work. Great narrative read. One decision I would make differently with the benefit of hindsight. One sizing error, let's call it. I didn't get big enough. And we're ready to rock and roll for tomorrow in terms of a process goal. So day one under the belt. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff today. Hopefully you got some good insight into, you know, the day in the life of a trader. And, you know, it's a grind at times, right? It's not just like, yeah, you know, just crushing everything every second. A lot of it is narrative dependent on what we're kind of given. And that's why it's a terrible idea to have like a daily P&L goal, is because there's days like today where for the trades we were looking for, we just weren't presented with enough. And so if we had a P&L goal, we'd fall short and we'd say something's wrong, we need to fix it. If on other days we hit a P&L goal, but there was tremendous opportunity, we wouldn't have made nearly enough. And there would be a problem and we wouldn't know it. We'd say, oh, I'm happy I hit my P&L goal. Well, you left a tremendous amount on the table, right? So it's important to assess each day relative to what was offered from a contextual perspective and whatnot, which is the way we do it. So we'll see y'all in the morning. Have a great evening or morning or whatever it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And take care. We'll talk soon.